What do you think?
We're getting ready.
6:31.
Yeah, let's start it.
All right. Should we close the door?
Sure, why not? Great. This is a good one.
Yeah, we haven't been up there, haven't had stuff, so.
Good evening, everyone, and I'll call the meeting to order of the Library Advisory Commission for October 7th. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Wynn,
Win present.
Commissioner Condelwald,
Present.
Commissioner Gert,
Nancy?
Oh, I couldn't hear you. Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Wall,
Here.
Commissioner Rogers,
Here.
Commissioner Dubin,
Present.
and Chair Termini.
Here. Motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I'll
There-
second.
There's a second by Rena. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Off we go. We'll start with any oral communications, members of the public for items that are not on the agenda. Marilyn, I think you're on.
City Council. Yes, we'll agree.
We spent many years together. We spent many years together. We don't have a podium or a microphone for you, so you can just talk to us.
I can just talk. So I want to bring up the issue of censorship, and I'll say why I'm relating it to the library. A couple of quotes. A government that can censor its critics has license for every atrocity. It is the beginning of totalitarianism. There has never been a time in history where we look back and the guys who were censoring were the good guys. That's a quote from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. before the House Judiciary Committee, July of 2023. And then from this book, The Unfortunate Truth About Vaccines, Exposing the Vaccine Orthodoxy by Leon Cannabon, local author, Censorship and Science. Scientific evidence that does not fall in line with the conventional wisdom of the medical establishment and the financial interests of corporations is routinely ignored, discounted, reworked, and or dismissed. And the scientists who dare speak up are vilified, threatened, discredited, and or fired by those who hold the purse strings. There are numerous cases of corruption in the medical, pharmaceutical, chemical industries that have been perpetuated throughout their history. The following examples are reflective of this corporate influence, but I won't go into those. But why I bring it up with the library is when the original library was closed, a lot of books were discarded. They were dumped. A friend saw them in the dumpster. And I was appalled because I see books as treasures. And then I asked at the library about the books. They said, oh, this is an all-new collection. And something seems very strange about this. And there are fewer books than there were before, the same at the Grants 40 library, but there's a lot more computer space for all this toxic Wi-Fi. So certain books that have been requested have not been taken. And so I used to always vote for library bonds, but with what's going on, I feel like there's something wrong here. And when they say renovation, remodel, upgrade, is this a subtle way of censoring and removing books that some don't find? I mean, you and I move from one place to another. We might get rid of some books, but otherwise you pack them in boxes, you take them to a new place. So I just want to bring this issue of censorship up. And Anyway.
Thank
it
you.
should be taking place. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Marilyn. We'll move on to a report by our library director, and welcome, Christopher.
Thank you.
First meeting. We're so pleased you're here.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to be here as well. So I've provided a written report in the packet. I do want to highlight 3 things from that report. The first is that the Live Oak Annex at the Simpkins Swim Center is on its way to completion. The books are starting to arrive that will sit there. The technology is installed. The study rooms are being used regularly. I was there on Saturday with Laura, and all 4 of the rooms actually were being used. And we will be doing open house, kind of quasi, grand opening on Saturday, November 23rd. So mark your calendars. We'll make sure it gets promoted and everyone will be aware of it. But I just want to give you an update on that. The second thing I wanted to highlight is the head of HR for the city of Santa Cruz. Remember, all of our employees are Santa Cruz employees, is actually going out with me and visiting every single branch in the system to speak with every staff member on this culture as a competitive advantage project that they're working on. And a couple of things that are important about it is that the head of Santa Cruz HR is getting out into the library branches, which I'm hearing from staff is probably the first time that's ever happened in history.
That's true.
So I'm really grateful for that, and it's resonating with staff because of that. But also staff are beginning to understand that some of the things that are concerning to them, the HR in the city and leadership are already kind of aware of, and so they can actually connect on. And the goal of this is to create more connection among the workforce, so that when they do staff engagement surveys, which they're resuming and to do yearly, they get broader engagement and response from the staff themselves, because they know that their answers are being taken seriously. And so I've sat in on about 50% of them now, and they've met with staff as many as this at a time, down to just a single staff member at a time, because some of our branches are really small. And so that's a real investment in time that I think I certainly appreciate. And then the third thing I wanted to highlight from the report is, of course, Eric Howard, who has been a tremendous resource for me since I got here on July 8th. And has become a really good friend and a trusted colleague, and has helped me understand where the bodies are buried. That's on the record now.
Yeah.
Is of course leaving for greener pastures in Washington State, and I just wanted to formally thank you for your support and for your service to Santa Cruz Public Libraries for the past 6 years, 5 years, little over 5. So and with that, that's my report.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Eric.
Yeah.
What time is the grand opening at the Live Oak Annex?
We're planning from an event from 10 o'clock to about 2 p.m.
Perfect.
And so there'll be the usual, hoopla and some programs, and it's going to be an exciting day, so it should be good.
Wonderful. Is there someone from the Friends?
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, a second,
Stay seated.
Stay seated.
hold on. Mike, if there's a person who online has raised their hand, I'm wondering.
On the director's report?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not,
Sorry.
that's quite all right. Let online speak.
All right, caller, you have been allowed to speak.
Come in, caller.
Are you there?
Speaking, yes.
Greetings.
Yeah, hi. I have a book. I got it at a Brave and Free meeting at Aptos Grange a few months ago. It's by a local author, Leon Canero. That's C-A-N-E-R-O-T. Canero, the T is silent. It's called The Unfortunate Truth About Vaccines, Exposing the Vaccine Orthodoxy. I'd like to just read a few passages, paragraphs from it.
Caller, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Here's what's in the vaccines. Vaccine ingredients. Aluminum. Aluminum is a heavy metal used in vaccines that has been linked to symptoms associated with inflammation of the brain, autoimmune disorders, and neurological diseases, including chronic fatigue, dementia, autism, macrophagic myofasciitis, or something like that, Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's disease, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson's disease. Okay, that's one ingredient. Formaldehyde is another ingredient. Formaldehyde is a human carcinogen that poses a significant danger to human health because of its toxicity and volatility. According to the U.S. National Toxicology Program, it is used in embalming corpses and has been implicated in childhood cancers like leukemia and in adult disorders like Alzheimer's disease. In vaccines, it is used as a preservative. According to the National Research Council, it is estimated that formaldehyde is able to trigger an allergic reaction in roughly 10 to 20% of the general population. Though the FDA states, quote, there is no evidence linking cancer to infrequent exposure to tiny amounts of formaldehyde via injection as occurs with vaccines, it does not consider the combined level of exposure when given multiple doses of vaccines containing formaldehyde at one time. Formaldehyde is used in the following vaccines: hepatitis B, Hep A, polio, influenza Hep A, which would result in the child receiving a total of 1,795 micrograms by the time he or she is 5 years old. Another ingredient, thimerosal. This is also known as ethyl mercury. Ethyl mercury is a toxic heavy metal that is 49.55% mercury by weight and is considered the second most poisonous element on Earth after the radioactive element uranium and its derivatives. In spite of that, thimerosal is used as a preservative and an adjuvant in vaccines. I think that's enough of that one. Here's squalene. Squalene is an oil-based adjuvant used in vaccines that causes an autoimmune response when injected into the body that is quite different from the squalene consumed as in olive oil and shark liver oil. The latter use has a positive effect on the body, similar to omega-3 fatty acids. However, animal experiments have shown that when injected, squalene triggers inflammatory and severe autoimmune reactions that include encephalomyelitis, resulting in the damage to the myelin sheath, neuritis, inflammation of the nerves that can cause paralysis, and other autoimmune disorders.
Thank you, caller. Your
Neomycin.
3 minutes are up. Thank you for giving us that information.
Okay,
And-
yeah, that's just a few of them.
Understood.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've had the director's report. Marilyn, if this is about the director's report, you may speak. If it's about the original subject, you may not.
It's about, the director's report.
Okay, speak to the director's report directly, please.
Okay, so you're the director, welcome to a new position here. And I have a request. My sister lives in Yolo County, and on the door of the library there is this Library Bill of Rights by the American Library Association. And it affirms that all libraries are forums for information and ideas, and that the following basic policies should guide their services. And it's right on the door. I'll just read a couple. There are 7 points, and I have copies for you all because this is really what libraries are about. Books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. Libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups concerned with resisting abridgment of free expression and free access to ideas. If someone else wants to read more, you can, but this is really a functional document. I was really impressed.
Thank you, Marilyn. Friends of the library? Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Beck. I'm the executive director of Friends of the Sanford Public Libraries. I think I was maybe 2 days into my role when I was at your last meeting. So I may look familiar, but I was absolutely just absorbing everything at that moment. So glad to be back with this group again. And I can report that we had a really fantastic event on September 20th that I'd like to tell you all about, because it was a way for us as Friends to kick off some strategic direction planning. And we also had a summit, which I can thank Eric Howard for giving an amazing talk at. And we had a gathering of maybe 40 people at the annex, which Christopher just actually mentioned, and it was very generous of the library folks to let us use one of their gathering times in that annex space. We were able to get together with Friends board, staff, as well as chapter leadership, chapter members, and administration, and librarians and other library staff. So I don't want to say it was unprecedented. I don't know how many times things like this have occurred in the past. I'm sure in the history of these organizations, this has happened, but it was very exciting for us to have all of those different groups represented and to convene and have some conversations about strategy. What came out of that is really the beginning of what will be and I call this a strategic direction, because ultimately what we would like to do at Friends is align our strategic planning schedule with that of the libraries, so that as they are doing strategic planning next year, we are going to follow their strategic plan with our own in order to do as much alignment as we possibly can. So in order to kind of get ourselves teed up to be in that position, we did a little bit of preliminary work. By the end of this year, we'll be putting out our strategic direction for 2025. And I'll just give you a couple of highlights because I think it's of relevance to where we're going. One of the top conversations we've been having is about access and involvement, community engagement, thinking about the fact that for every person who is served by the library, there is a role to be a friend. And we want to really make good on that accessibility promise for the Friends. This is not an elitist organization in which only those with the greatest means can be contributors. We want everyone to feel that they're the power of being a friend and to be a contributor in all the ways, whether that is through financial support, volunteerism, advocacy, and even participation. So that's one of our big goal areas. Another big goal area I already mentioned, which is aligned impact, the idea that, you know, as the library is having core programming decisions and audience focusing on specific audience groups, all of the things that the libraries want to achieve, we want to make sure that we're being supportive as we're doing all of the fundraising and advocacy that we can do. We want to really make sure we're aligning with the work they do. We are interested in advocacy broadly as well, making sure we're showing up not just in those legislative situations, but certainly making sure that we have a strong relationship with all of the members of the community that need to hear about what's going on with the libraries. And then, you know, making sure that we have great case statements and gathering all of those powerful statements of impact and you know, advocating for what the library is doing. We are also looking at, of course, fundraising and making sure we're being focused. You probably are aware that there is still one more branch that is going to be one of our areas of focus. And we're already, you know, in a quiet phase, getting working on that. But obviously, we have to keep all the burners on, and so we're going to continue to fundraise for programming and other library needs, as well as maintaining our own stability and sustainability as an organization. So we decided it was worth a goal. And then there's one more goal, which is organizational excellence. And this is just really where we want to make good on the work of Friends and the promise to everyone who supports the libraries, making sure that we're being very transparent about all the ways that we steward the funds that we receive, making good on, you know, making sure that our organization is right-sized and, you know, creating all of the good work that we say that we're going to do and transparent and well. So those are the goal areas, and you'll be seeing more from us hopefully soon, and we'll be sharing the final plan.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Rena?
I'm just curious, do you have, and aside from the downtown branch, are there any other major fundraising efforts that you're planning on doing over the next year, or is that kind of a
It's
to be
basically
determined?
areas. I mean, we definitely want to focus in on the areas that the libraries, even in the end of their strategic plan, have decided to focus on, because there are a number of audience groups that they're working on programming, matching programming to. So we definitely want to make sure that we're looking at that. We also really have an operational need right now, so that we can be right-sized as an organization and make sure we're able to accomplish all of this. So I'd say it's kind of those three goal areas.
Great.
Did I say something from Nancy? Did you have it? Oh, okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
you.
We'll move on to member reports. Commissioners, anyone have anything they'd like to bring up? Rita,
I would just, in the Washington Post today, I don't know if any of you saw it. It was just an article about the demographics of who uses libraries. I can give you that link if you need it. It's like their Department of Data. But it's definitely an interesting article to read. The thing that struck me the most was that the people who use libraries the most are financially more well off and certainly have degrees. And whereas I kind of in my head thought it would have been more equal with lower income people needing the library. And I just thought that would be something that we can look at as, you know, going forward, since we do have our strategic plan and that is one of our goals. And if that's something we need to be outreaching more, if that's not necessarily true to our community. I know there's a lot of beautiful programs we have with the jails, et cetera, but
Yeah.
it's just, I was kind of surprised. So I just wanted to throw
it
it out
speaks to
there.
outreach and accessibility, and we take a lot of it for granted, especially in a great county that we're in, that we think everyone is on a level playing field. And we forget the digital divide, we forget language barriers, and I think more outreach is always worthy, for sure. Nancy?
I was at a playground recently and talking to a mother who had her children there and talking about how great the library is. And she's like, yeah, she probably stopped by there. And I saw her again the next time we were there and she said, yeah, I talked to my husband and he wants to know how much it costs, like to, you know, check out books, because I was telling her, yeah, I check out like 20 books. She's like, and so she's like, oh, I said, it doesn't cost anything. So it made me realize this was like not a person that you would think, you know, but that was what her husband was pretty sure that.
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
common knowledge, is it?
No, it's not. That's what made me really
Yeah.
realize that. Yeah. It
Interesting.
was kind of shocking.
Very.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you grow up in a library, I mean, I grew up going to the library and my son grew up going to the library and I still go to the library. And, you know, you almost don't, it's such something you take for granted. And yet if you don't go to the library, and I do talk to a lot of people who don't go to the library at all. And it really is so surprising to me, and they're readers, but they're paying for Audible and they're buying books on Prime and anyway, and of course, it's always hard to find the people who are not going to the library to get them, you know, and so that is a challenge and I do hope we'll spend some time. on it.
It's-
I know the strategic plan addresses some of that.
It's surprising how many people are still rankled by all the money we spent with all the new branches, because they say nobody goes to libraries anymore. And it's like the old Yogi Berra quote, nobody goes to libraries anymore, they're always too crowded. Any other member reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to a consent calendar. It has the minutes and the recent articles about Santa Cruz Public Libraries. And is there a motion to move the consent? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Anyone want to discuss anything about those? Then all,
Just great job on all the press.
oh, phenomenal. Yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
I abstain actually, because I wasn't here for
That's okay.
do the minutes.
And technically, you know, if you read the minutes, you can still vote on them.
Oh, okay.
Give
So
me
then,
power.
I'll vote okay.
It's a fine point. That's okay. General business. This is near and dear to my heart. Revised collection development. Sarah.
It's your turn.
You can tell we're so formal at these meetings. Very stodgy.
So the collection development policy was due for revision this year, so we have a team of people at the library who met and worked on this and came up with a draft and then showed it to other staff, and then this is it's included in the packet. The draft that we landed on, there are a few changes. The most notable one is that it's much shorter
Mhm.
than the previous or current policy. We were able to combine, so one of the things we had selection criteria for print or physical materials, and then we had selection criteria for e-materials, and so we were able to combine those two selection criteria. We had a lot of language in there about collection maintenance, and we were able to shorten that a little bit. So we're very proud of where we are, and what's it, I'm very happy to hear the comments.
Anyone have any questions? Yes,
Well, I
Tricia?
thought it was really well done, and I certainly don't understand the ins and outs, and the depth, but I mean, everything that I read made a lot of sense. The one thing that I thought was missing from it, and maybe it's just me, but like sometimes I'm reading something and I hear about a book that I want to read and I get on the website and the collection doesn't have that book. Maybe it's too new or whatever. And so you can put in a request for it, and then I get notified that the book, has been purchased and I'm in line for it. But could you maybe just describe that process and like how you guys evaluate if a patron, I'm sure it's not one patron requesting one book that gets selected. If you could just describe that process to me.
Sure. So our team of selectors gets 200-ish purchase suggestions per month that come in through our website.
wow.
And we do have a feature in there where a patron can include their email address to be notified of the decision. So the selector looks at each of those, they can they have a login that they can see, and then make notes to themselves, make notes to the patron, and then with their decision, either yes, it will be purchased, or no, for a variety of reasons. Maybe because of the selection criteria outlined in the policy, maybe it's a better candidate for interlibrary loan. Oftentimes it's something that's just not available. We'll get purchase suggestions like for a DVD that is just not available in the US. It's been turned into a DVD. So yeah, so then the email goes out, takes a little bit of time for us to get it in the catalog sometimes. Thank you.
Other questions? I have one. Is it possible, we're not taking questions from the audience, but thank you, Marilyn. Is it possible when you receive a request for a book not to be in the library? Because I know we all have a keen interest in the right to read, and we've all been very active in that. Is it possible for us to see some kind of report at our meetings to see what's been asked to be removed and what the final resolution was?
Well, I can say that happens very rarely.
That's why I don't think it's a lot of work, but that's the only reason I asked. That's the only reason I asked, is that it would be nice to know what the general tone is in the community, what's being asked for, and how we negotiate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nothing, too formal, just a list, really, like this has happened and this has happened. Rena, you had something?
Oh, I just had two things that I would suggest you add to your criteria list, and you can I know you have your whole process, but the first is local history and local guides. I know like the Garfield Park has branches more of that, but I do, I know Bookshop Santa Cruz is local authors, but there's some things that are specific to Santa Cruz, and I just don't want those materials, especially anything that's newly, more recently produced, to be lost. And so that's the first suggestion. And the other one is classic books, particularly for children. Because one thing I know, taking my own kids to the library, is they just kind of grab a lot of things. And it's not necessary, even when my daughter, especially when she was older, she would just grab things off the shelf. And to me, it's like the more classic books, classic kids books that we have are like on displays. I tried to do with her a challenge of Newbery Award winners, and we did have to go and purchase a lot of them ourselves because they weren't available at the library. But it just seems like if they were on display, and if a lot of those books were just more out there, then I think kids might grab it, rather than, because this is kind of, for adults, it makes sense for it to be the other way around, but for kids, it's kind of like they're gonna read what's there. So those are my comments. You can do with it what you want.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Nancy?
Sometimes I mean, I hear you around the children grabbing things up. No, not that one. Because there's some series that I get so tired of reading.
Yeah.
They're poorly written, they're kind of stupid. But on the other hand, kids like what they like, but I agree with you, like, I would love to see. And this is partly working with the schools, is kids gravitating more towards these classics, the Newbery books and but it's hard to make that happen. And I'm not sure what the answer there is, but it's partly working with the schools, I think. And also I have separately a different issue is, how do we know that, so we've got digital and physical. How do we know that the digital is just an audience that does digital? And that the people who actually want to read some digital books can't get them, and they won't ever get them because they don't do digital. So how do we know, like I've talked to you before, sir, about this, about why don't we make sure we have a physical copy of every book? Just for those people who are looking for a physical copy. And there's that, and then especially for the children, because I do not do books on screens with my grandchildren. I won't do it. And I think a lot of people feel like me, especially if they're into tech, the tech workers, they hate their kids looking at screens. So that continues to be an issue for me. And so I just thought I'd put that out there.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to let you know in relation to this collection development policy, we did put it in the staff report. The governor recently signed the California Freedom to Read Act. So that's now official, AB 1825, and one of the requirements of that act is to have an updated collection development policy with a process for requesting a review of a title. And so I want to commend Sarah for having the foresight to get this policy updated in time to do so. We'll be one of the first to submit our policies to the California State Library in relation to that. So
Great.
make sure you're aware of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yvonne, do we have anyone online?
There are no online comments.
Is there anyone present who would like to comment? Marilyn, you have 3 minutes.
As a retired elementary school teacher, I taught for 20 years in the Upland School District. And Newbery Award books were fantastic, and I agree with you. In fact, the evidence showed children reading real books and discussing them. They do so much better than when it's online. And regarding collections, now I moved up here in 81. I remember you could go into the library and you could donate a book that would be incorporated into the library system. Here's some recent examples, and this one, The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Light. So when we try to do that, there's all this computer stuff that the orders are from a certain, I don't know, companies, which seems limited. So how do we get where community members who want access, who want to represent the community, can come in and donate books and they can be incorporated? And this book has been translated into many languages. I know a lot of people are very enthused about electricity, but this is called The Invisible Rainbow, a history of electricity and life. And just a little bit here on the cover, the story of the invention and use of electricity has often been told before, but never from an environmental point of view. The assumption of safety and the conviction that electricity has nothing to do with life are by now so entrenched in the human psyche that the new research and testimony by those who are being injured are not enough to change the course of society has set. Two increasingly isolated worlds, that inhabited by the majority who embrace new electrical technology without question, and that inhabited by a growing minority who are fighting for survival in an electrically polluted environment, no longer even speak the same language. In The Invisible Rainbow, Arthur Firstenberg, I know him, bridges the two worlds. It is a story that is rigorously scientific yet easy to read, and he provides a surprising answer to the question, how can electricity be suddenly harmful today when it was safe for centuries? This book should be in the library, and it's not.
Thank you, Marilyn. And there are ways to request it. Just donating it doesn't work with our system. You can donate books to the Friends. They have bookstores, but you can also put a request in to collection. And as a side note, with all the new branches we've had, I've heard the comment before that we just don't have as many books as we used to. But we have many, many times the shelf space that we used to have. And the impression when you walk into libraries is that there aren't as many books. And in fact, there's more. So we'll move on to the next item, library safety guidelines. Laura, how are you? Good to see you.
I have a very simplistic PowerPoint.
Very good. We're very simplistic people right now.
It's mainly the job I don't have actually going to talk about. This discussion originated after the one-day closure of the Felton Branch Library due to wildfire smoke. And I'm just going to very briefly go over our general safety program. And then I will address that specific event at the end. So I can get this to go full screen. It doesn't really want to do. So I want to slideshow. Slideshow, thank you. That would help. There we go. So safety in the library is one of our most important factors, and it's for every person that's in the library, staff, user, doesn't matter. And we take it seriously. Come on, you.
Straightforward.
There we go. So we have our own safety committee. It's made up of staff members in all classifications. And we take staff input and things they're concerned about. If the public sends something in, we also look around ourselves and we plan for various training times during the year. We're coming up on the Great Shakeout, which is the earthquake preparedness. And we'll be talking about it at Staff Day. And we do review incident reports. We look at the library safety procedures. We update them as necessary or when situations change. And We do try to train ourselves so that we can go out and train others. We're working with the City of Santa Cruz's safety officer, which is fairly new for us. I don't know if they've ever had one before Dana Stahl, but she comes over and she's really worked with us, and she is a professional safety officer. So we're very fortunate with that. We have our Santa Cruz Public Library Training Coordinator, who is fairly new, 6 months or so. The City of Santa Cruz Safety Officer. We also have our problem situation manual. And not everyone has an idea of just how epic. It's 68 pages long. And it covers almost anything that may happen in the library, our safety committee, and then on the City of Santa Cruz and then the Santa Cruz Public Library's intranet, we have pages dedicated solely to safety training, safety resources, and what to do's. And here are the 4 primary areas of safety that we focus on: health and personal safety, facilities, sharp edges, broken pieces, things like that. Behaviors. They could be good, they could be bad, you never know. And then external events, and that could be earthquakes, floods, fire, trees coming down, fun things like that. So health and personal safety may be medical emergencies, either patron, staff, or somebody outside the building that someone has come in and said, oh my God, this person has fallen. Environmental allergies or triggers. That could be somebody wearing a heavy amount of perfumes that has now caused somebody else in the building to have an asthmatic reaction. Cleanliness. We don't want mold, we don't want foods. Human bodily fluid exposures and bloodborne pathogens. And yes, we actually do have that happen. We just removed some hazardous materials. It turned out some plumbing that was done at Boulder Creek was not done well. And we had human waste underneath the building. It's all good now.
Good to know.
Drugs, paraphernalia, and syringes. We've had syringe strikes on staff. They reach for materials on the shelves. A lot of residue from when people are burning and smoking items. Questionable baggies of things. And so all of our staff get trained on what to do with that, which is basically cordon off the area and call the professionals. Hepatitis. That's an issue, especially with the syringe pricks. Bomb threats. We've actually had some. And then sadly, active shooters and the training for that. It is something that we have to be very aware of. Facilities, water leaks, fumes and furnaces, hazardous materials. We have at each location, it used to be called MSDS and they've changed the acronym, and I've used MSDS for 20 years and having some problems. But that's any item that we have stored in the building. Paint, Windex, hand sanitizer. We have to have the sheet that tells us exactly what's in it and what to treat as a poison or if it gets on the body. And then evacuation plans. That's something I'm currently working on with all the new buildings, how to get people out safely. Behaviors. They're disruptive. They can be very jarring. They can be emotionally or mentally aberrant. I think it's how that one's pronounced. And psychiatric emergencies, vandalism and disruption, and then physical violence. This can happen at any of our branches. It's not reserved just for one classification of patron or one location. Some of the scariest people I've ever in my life worked with were soccer moms. This again is something that we really work with our staff to take trainings for personal safety,
to be able to put up those boundaries. We've also developed a very strong code of conduct as well as an incident report system that really lays out that, no, you can't come in and verbally abuse the staff. You can't come in and threaten staff. We know who to call if someone is having what seems to be a mental event. The vandalism and destruction. It happens usually when someone's very upset. And so we also train on de-escalation. External events, earthquakes, extreme heat, power outages, wildfire, air quality. All of that is something, again, for safety for everyone that's in the building or outside the building. And we train our staff what to do in the event of all of these. And this is just honestly a small bit of what we have in here. And for all of our new hires, we have a bit of safety training when they first come on board. We also incorporate ergonomics because that's a nice personal safety. We then, every year, you get to refresh yourself, reread this, go online. We use Niche Academy that has safety training as well. We really want to make sure that our staff know how to take care of themselves, when to step back, get somebody else, when to call the authorities. So our new training coordinator is working with the city safety officer as well as doing research for a number of videos. As our staff all have time set aside every day to go and learn. And one of the things we want them to learn is how to take care of themselves, be proactive, then keep everyone else safe. So that's what we do. I think that's it. Doing this very fast. We had in June 20th of this year, it was a control burn happening at the Henry Cowell State Park. There was a lot of smoke produced and it settled in the valley in Felton. Staff called me. I was the adult on duty. And they were having real problems with their eyes. They were getting headaches. It was very smoky in the building. We talked, they were already using the N95 mask. Now, a lot of people think we can just tell our staff, wear the mask. We can't do that. Legally, we cannot do that. But we highly recommend it. They had already done that. They were trying to keep the doors closed as much as possible. They had the HVAC system working. They were still experiencing all these issues. The outside AQI, which is the particle matter that's in the air, was already above 151.
Oh.
Which is when you don't want to be outside. Even with the mask, you should be limiting your time. We talked and I kept monitoring for about a 45-minute period. And it was getting worse. I made the call to close the branch. Which we did. We then had a very unhappy patron who I think spoke.
We all met.
You all met. But the benefit to this was the opportunity for me to look and go, what do they say about the interior AQI? And there's not much out there. Dana Stahl from the city was very helpful with this because she came from the city of Seattle and their public libraries. Seattle gets really icky. In the winter, it can get very smoky.
There's Eric picking up.
I know.
But they had gone through a number of wildfire smoke events in Seattle. And so she had done a lot of research on it. And we still weren't finding much. But what we decided on was, well, if 151 is bad outside, it's got to be bad inside. What can we do? So we went out and purchased Purple Air monitors, which are now installed in all of the buildings. We rewrote some procedures for what to do in the wildfire situation. The 151 is still our magic number, but our branches can't just close on their own. They do have to contact someone in library management. Because we then have a process of contacting the board, let them know what's going on. We have to change the phone numbers, we have to get it on our social media, we really want people to know. This event, some of those steps were missed, and I think that's where a lot of the anger came from. And I would say that we've learned a great deal from that, but we're trying to be as proactive as we possibly can. So I wrote this all up for this, our staff, we have it on the internet, these are our procedures now for internal smoke or any other type of event that might affect the air quality.
How do we deal with the people who are in the library? Do we have a procedure for somehow caring for them?
That's our next step, is to remember that as much as we want to get out of this area, others may not feel it's quite as dangerous. And to be better with our quality of service of saying, hey, we're gonna have to close because we're above our particulate matter in the air here. If you need to go someplace else, here's where I recommend, do you have a way to get there?
There we go.
We just need to be less rush and more helpful. And that's something that Eric and I talked about after this event. And I have been talking with the branch managers about. But it is something that we need to develop and put into our problem situation management.
All right, so now you can read what the particulate matter is inside.
Yes,
And so what is the number established for when you've got to close the libraries?
well, anything above 151, we're going to want to monitor. And
Yeah,
unless you have like an N95 mask on, you really should not be in an environment of 151 more than, an hour is what they say, and even that's kind of sketchy. And with the purple air, anyone can go on the purple air map and see what's going on. Right now, we're having interesting reports from LaSalvia Beach. I have no idea why it's 300. And we just changed out to a brand new one and it's still saying that, so we moved it, because I think it's its location. And if it's still that, I'm definitely calling someone to come out and test our air.
Yeah.
Laura, is it true that Felton is deficient in the filtration system of the HVAC, or is that just hearsay?
I'll get technical on you
Sure.
right now. All of our locations that have HVAC systems, there are filtration. The best filtration you can have is what's called MERV 13 or 14. And that's not only how many particulates get caught in the filter, but it's the strength of the HVAC system to pull the air through the filter. Now, here, I'm just gonna tell you who's got what. For locations already utilizing MERV 13, Scotts Valley Library, Capitola Library, and the Aptos Library. That's the highest you can have a MERV rating. The downtown library, and when I say downtown library, I'm really talking about the community room at the downtown library. Because aside from the portable ACs we have in the children's room, the rest of the building has no HVAC. It and Live Oak utilize a post filters system with MERV 13 and MERV 15. And that's a pre-filter and a post filter system. Because they've got some really rough HVACs. They can suck, they can do it. And we are in the process of upgrading Branson 40 system to a MERV 13. Currently it's a MERV 8, but it has the capacity to be upgraded. The remaining libraries, Garfield Park, LaSalvia Beach, Boulder Creek, and Felton, are not candidates for upgraded filters. The equipment at those sites do not have the capacity for the higher MERV filters and are currently operating with the highest filtration possible, which is MERV 8. And MERV 8 is pretty standard for small or residential facilities.
Understood.
So the one thing that we have been working with staff is, even with the best filtration system, you're gonna smell smoke. It's not a particulate in that same way.
Mhm.
And so it's really so important to see what the purple air inside or the air gap
Yeah, air dump better.
for exterior. To really get an idea of how many particulates may be in the building.
All right. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, hold on, we'll start at this end
Yeah.
and work our way around.
Yes, it is.
Why would they not have upgraded the filtration system?
We have almost all of the plans for all of the Measure S renovations or rebuildings were done before 2019.
Oh,
And none of us were thinking smoke, we were thinking heat.
oh, okay.
And that AC unit at Felton, as well as at all the other locations, really does a great job for heat. But none of us were sitting here going, oh, yeah, we're gonna have epic wildfires. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, yeah.
Yes,
My question had
Scarlett.
to do with, procedurally, I know for schools, when we have an incident and you're in custody of minors, there's sort of a standard of duty of care or responsibility to stay with them until they get picked up. What is your procedure allocate for both minors and also seniors that are not ambulatory, or some of our senior population who tends to sit and you don't want them sitting outside for an hour or two while they wait for a ride?
yes. With minors, we do have a policy of staying with them until a parent can come. Or it does get to a certain point where we may have to call the sheriff. I personally had to do that one time up at Boulder Creek. We don't really have a seniors, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think we need to address that.
Good point. Rena?
So my first question was, do you have generators in any of the?
I wish,
buildings?
I really
Okay.
wish. We have right now at Scotts Valley and Felton generators from PG&E, but they're only to be used by PG&E during a PSPS event. Now, on the good news, downtown sort of has a generator. It runs all of our IT. And we are going to be changing and be cloud-based. And so when that happens and the city puts in a larger generator at our library headquarters, which will also run, is primarily the water department. We're catching really nice add-on there. We're going to take the generator we currently have at downtown and put it up in Boulder Creek,
Yeah.
which is our branch that has the most power outages year round. And
Sure.
we wanted one here, but where they had to put the electrical and all, we can't have a generator in that area. And you have a power loss the longer your cables are, so. Yeah, I wish that was something I
I-
wanted at every location.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce just how important that is, just because we've had some power outages and then we were able to go to the library and, you know, just for the Wi-Fi. I mean, it's just, it can be, feel so important in that moment. And in some cases, it really is that important for people to have a place for electricity. So anything that can.
Yeah, we
happen
have
for that.
talked, there's a couple of branches, Capitola, the friends at the Capitola have been looking at solar and potentially a battery. And Felton was actually designed for solar with a battery. But it was the cost.
Is it like, it's a funding issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly, if I had my choice, rather than do solar, I'd want to see Generac at every branch.
Mhm.
Is they're automatic, they come on, they're very efficient, and you can get them so that they run the HVAC and the lights. Everything you need is just, you know, like turn on electricity, which you don't have with the batteries. They're probably gonna keep the lights on and that's about it.
Right. Okay, I did have one other question.
Yeah.
So I just really commend the staff because I know they deal with a lot. And I was just curious about like the boundaries of each library and how you define like the steps and the, you know, the outside and how staff are trained. Cause, you know, I know there's altercations coming into the library sometimes and,
Yeah, if it's on the property that we are leasing from the jurisdiction. Interior, exterior, you will respond,
okay.
staff,
So it is the outside as well.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
hard for staff,
It's
I'm sorry.
an assessment that our staff have to make of, okay, this one I feel comfortable approaching. This one, no, I'm calling 911. At downtown, it's right until the sidewalk. The sidewalk is city. And that little strip around is us. The parking lot is technically city.
But that's hard, that's hard.
That's one of the reasons why we do have a security guard at the downtown. At other locations, it's the grounds as well as the building. Most altercations that we have or interactions are interior.
Nancy, I think you had something?
Yeah, I'm just curious about, okay, so Felton has this generator in the parking lot that I don't think it was used last summer when it was there, and it takes up 2 parking spaces, and it's super annoying, it's giant. And then they take it away in the winter when actually we need generators. And it's just, it's maddening, so a lot of people wanna see it gone.
We
And-
have roughly 2 more years.
And then my question is, like, in the whole system, who would pay for a generator for Felton? Would that be on the county to pay for it, or would that be in the system? I'm not clear about that, because we need a generator. Not in the parking lot.
PG&E, again, it's only for the power,
The things they have planned, right?
yeah, the PSPSs. And so they tend to only happen during the fire season. But technically, our fire season is June through October. And this year, they changed and had to have the fences around the generators, which took up more space. We have 2 more years on that contract we have with them as the Scotts Valley. And we are doing one here, but it's not the same scenario. The generator will move in and out. It won't live here. As to whose responsibility to buy it. The county, probably not. We have a contract with the county for maintenance, and we have a plan for that. And there's certain levels that we spend, and once we're above that, then they will pay for the larger items. Something like the generator is not in their minds a maintenance issue. It's an operational, and so that would fall onto the library. Whether that's friends fundraising for it, or if we can find grants to provide for it. That's kind of where we're at with the generators. And then do we have the space, the safe space? Because you may or may not like to hear this, but the best place for it at Felton would be right where the garden beds are in the patio. Because again, it's close to where the electrical panel is. And that's part of what you're looking for. Now, La Selva Beach has been able to piggyback on the fire department's generator. We're very fortunate with that, but someplace like Grants 40, we really don't have a location on that site where we could have them. Garfield Park, maybe, but I think the neighbors would really hate it. They're not that loud, but still. So there's a lot of factors looking into it. For us, Boulder Creek was a bit of a no-brainer simply because of the amount of outages that branch and that community suffer from truly year-round. And squirrels commit suicide all the time.
I just wanted to know, the day after we had that event at Felton, we knew there was gonna be more of a controlled burn, and Laura ran around to all the branches because we had during COVID purchased those large industrial filters. And she stacked them in Felton, so that the air remained, even though we have the Merve, having all those filters there really made the difference. And just to your point about the indoor number, like kind of what that
Yeah.
is, 152. So if it were 152 or more, that would certainly set us in motion in a certain direction, but I don't want people to believe that it has to be 152 for us to do a closure, because that only picks up particulate matter. So if staff are complaining of like runny eyes, sore throats, and it's the air quality from that measurement seems to be fine, it just may be that it's not picking up something else that could be toxic. So we really have to listen to the staff. If the staff are experiencing symptoms that are dramatic and upsetting, we have to respond to that, even if we don't have these metrics.
And staff really don't like having to close. I honestly, when the power goes out, our staff will fight to keep the building open. And we have to remember, if people have to use a flashlight to find a book, you have to close. So they're not just trying to find reason to close and go home. So I really want to.
Because they don't go home, they go to another branch.
Yes,
Yeah.
they all get sent elsewhere that day.
So I'm just curious about generators for downtown. And if that, like, how do we proactively, I just think it's really important for the community to have a place that has electricity. So how can we be proactive in ensuring that it's designed, that the building is designed so that we can have.
I don't think it is.
It's not.
Do we have generators up on the roof?
I'm meaning the new
Yeah,
downtown,
the
yeah.
It has to be
Backup
prioritized.
batteries at a minimum.
If it's not made a priority, it gets redlined right away from the budget. And that's the reason for air quality and HVAC systems that are chosen. It's the reason they're not generators. It's all about the budget for the construction.
Oh, okay.
And there was a question brought up by the person who spoke to us at Boulder Creek with regard to accessibility. I spoke to a building official from the county. Boulder Creek is a completely ADA accessible facility. I think what I would suggest in that room that we sit in, instead of arranging the tables in front of the exit, that we turn it 180 so that the people are sitting at the entrance and can gain easy access.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah.
it's a perfectly accessible building.
Yeah, all of our buildings now
Correct.
are fully accessible. Old Felton was our big holdout. And
Those of us who remember Old Felton.
because we hadn't done any significant major upgrades since it was built, it was technically ADA compliant for when it was built. Was it accessible? No. No. And even Branciforte, though its internal layout was not really accessible. And that kind of falls back on people going, there's less books, there's less shelving. So much of that is ADA driven. And I've learned more about ADA in the last 4 years than I ever thought I would. The height of the shelving that's in the middle of the floor, the height that can be on the wall, how wide they have to be. And all of that it's very frustrating to have someone say, well, I never see anyone with a wheelchair in here. And it's kind of, yeah, because they couldn't. Now they can. Hopefully they'll come in.
Can I just put a plug in for this fabulous documentary? Maybe some of you have seen it called Crib Camp.
Yeah.
It's like, it will open your eyes to the world of ADA and why and how it came about. It's an unbelievable story. Unbelievable.
It was good.
Yvonne, do we have anybody online?
There are no online comments.
I think we may have a comment from the public here. Marilyn.
Thank you for that report that dealt with many aspects of safety. However, there's microwave radiation element in the room of the Wi-Fi and the wireless microwave technology. And I have it up, and you were talking about the headaches. Immediately when I walk in here, I have a headache from all the wireless radiation. We talked about ADA. The paper's called Wi-Fi in the Library, Convenience or Health Hazard. It's so ingrained in the society to think it's a hazard, but it is. Here's with just a little bit here. Like cigarettes, cell phones, and towers, Wi-Fi too harm both users and non-users. Secondhand radiation comes from nearby cell phones and from nearby and even distant cell towers. Researchers in 8 countries, and there's more and more volumes of evidence, have found that the closer people live to cell towers, the more likely they are to suffer from fatigue, irritability, headaches, dizziness, nausea, shortness of breath, weakness, sleep disturbances, difficulty concentrating, memory loss, depression, skin problems, visual and hearing disturbances, tremors, and cardiovascular problems. My health provider thinks I have tremors because I taught in Roosevelt next to fields of pesticides, neurological consequences of radiation exposure. I want to give a little historical praise to you, Mike Termini, for something that happened in Capitola some years ago. Capitola had an ordinance to have setbacks from cell towers to protect the citizenry, and the Capitola City Council had written this document. Verizon came in to put up an antenna for First Avenue near Newly. And Mike stood up to Verizon and said, this does not go with our ordinance. We, this is paraphrasing, represent people of Capitola, and we basically don't like to be bullied. And what happened was Verizon sued Capitola, as they're doing in other cities. And Ralph Nader put it well, when I heard it, he said, the challenge is the structural domination of the corporate state that dominates everything. But commendations to you to try to protect the citizenry.
Thank you, Marilyn.
And I think here in the library, you could go to a wired Ethernet system without having this problem.
Thank you, you're 3. Thank you.
I hardly ever go to the library now because it's painful.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes.
To go back to item A, you said Allison, the policy needs to be endorsed with it.
My apologies, we did not have that. We needed a recommended action on item 8A to endorse the collection development policy. Is there a motion?
Yes, I think that we endorse.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. As an aside, yes, I did turn down a cell tower contrary to the Federal Communications Commission Act. And the next day, there was an injunction on the desk of the city manager. So to say they're not prepared isn't true. Let's go to the Library Advisory Commission meeting schedule. Oh, thank you for that, Laura, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next meeting is right back here in this beautiful library on January 13th. Sound good? Are there any other items for the good of the order? Welcome again to Christopher.
Yeah.
We're off and running. Bon voyage to Eric.
Yeah.
And thank you to the public, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry, you want to vote on the
Yeah,
meetings?
actually,
Everybody want to approve it? All in favor? Aye. Done. Motion, second. I know the system. I know the system. It's all good. And thank you all.